Hi, how are we doing everybody, and welcome to Russell Heritage Golf. Today got a great drill, right? You're going to need something similar to what I'm holding here, right? Because I'm out here on the grass, I'm using a couple of canes. You can use your golf bag if you want to. If you're doing this exercise at home, then you can use something like a chair. The length of this, I would get something a little bit longer than a conventional cane, just because obviously it's easier to see out your peripheral vision than a shorter object. What we're talking about today is probably the biggest problem that I see with most amateur golfers, and this is, genuinely what I see the biggest problem. What we tend to see is a lack of understanding as to how to rotate the pelvis into the leg correctly. And therefore, if you don't understand how to do that, what will happen is that you'll never have the ability to do things like create a load. You'll never be able to stay centered in your golf swing. You'll never really be able to stay in posture. And therefore, if you can't do any of those things in the backswing, then your downswing will be a compensation, right? It will be, and I think that's important to understand. A lot of the people that come for lessons and a lot of the annotations, if you have a look at them on the social media pages, you'll see a very common theme of golfers that I'll talk about incorrect movement on the backswing. And the idea is that they keep watching the channel and do drills like this. Anyway, the idea is pretty simple. You would position yourself in your posture. I'm going to mainly focus on my backside because this is going to be for the backswing, so I'm just making sure that the canes are about the width of my hip, and I'm basically taking my posture to the point where, I suppose with this, because it's a freestanding object pretty much, you can wobble around, that I'm already in contact with it. What should happen if you demonstrated the movement correctly is that, and you've got to be careful, is look how quickly back I go, is that the first move needs to feel more like a rocking of the shoulders. So you can see the way my first move isn't too horizontal. The first problem is that if I kind of demonstrated two of the biggest problems first and foremost. One, golfers that move too horizontal, you can see the way my pelvis now is forced to drift forward. And again, therefore, all of a sudden, you're not going to be in posture and you're going to struggle in the downswing, therefore triggering an early hip extension. The second problem, if I kind of face on, well, I demonstrate from side on first, is that from a side-on perspective, it looks like I'm creating a tilt, and you can kind of see the way my hip stays in contact with the bar. But what's kind of happening here is if you look at my lead hip, see the way it's kind of sliding its way across. Now, all you'd want to do is just make sure that you kind of stabilize this side. So the idea is that what we're trying to do with all of these movements reference the lower body is we're trying to get the feeling that we are turning the pelvis in towards the leg, okay? And if we do this movement correctly, this leg here can stay relatively kind of stable. Now, if you end up kind of sliding the pelvis a little bit too much, then you can start to see the way my lead side would then start to move laterally too much. So the idea would be, anyway, that once you adopt your posture, the first move, and I still think this is probably one of the most important lessons you're ever going to learn from myself, is that it's more of a tilt. Right, the first move you can see, and all I'm talking about, if I just grab my club for a moment just to put it into perspective as to how subtle this movement can be, is that as I kind of tilt my shoulders, you can see how the club therefore is kind of forced to travel straight back. Now from there, then obviously you are going to continue to rotate across. But for the point of this exercise is that I want you to do it all the way up. So what you can start to see is the way that my hips stay in contact. All I'm doing here is I am basically trying to get that feeling of a more vertical nature and then just continue to turn my shoulders. Now what's important is that you keep your height, so you don't kind of drop down this way. You always want your weight to go in towards that heel, and if you do this movement correctly, you'll feel it in that heel. As you can see, the way I'm staying in contact with the two canes behind me, if not, I'm actually starting to push them back a little bit as well. All I'm trying to do here, or all I'd suggest that you guys do, is keep the upper part of the leg as forward facing as you can, because you don't necessarily want to spin it out, because again then what you can see is the knock-on effect it has to all this movement. Now, a lot of people that come for lessons, like I said earlier, most of them would struggle with this sort of movement, okay? Most common problems that I see are golfers in the first move that would move this way. Okay, and that, other golfers potentially less, but they might start to go into a state of being in a reverse pivot. If you're in a reverse pivot, you're not as far away sometimes as I think you're perceived. I think a lot of golfers, when you diagnose a reverse pivot, they say, oh, you're just not turning enough. It's not necessarily true. Actually, if you're somebody who is sliding around a little bit this way, you're not too far away. You just got to learn to stabilize this side and just go back to this feeling of turning the pelvis into the leg. And a great drill for that is just to put that leg forward and just feel like you're turning the pelvis in towards the leg in the backswing. A lot of these exercises, I know this because of the people that I work with, I suppose when I demonstrate them, because I understand the movement, you can make them look easy, but it's amazing how many times people try and do this and then they're kind of uncertain as to how to move. And what you need to understand is that, you know, you have to kind of do these exercises and drills because basically you've got to re-coordinate how you move, and it will work. And this drill will work, and it's a really important drill. It's an important drill because all of a sudden then, instead of looking, like I say, this way or slidey or whatever, you'll start to have a golf swing where very early on in this movement, you'll be able to keep your shoulders on more of a rocking action, if you like. Start to get the feeling, as you can see here, that I'm turning my pelvis in towards my leg. And then like I did in that last video, by the time we talked about left arm horizontal, I can already feel a lot of weight moving in towards my heel because of the correct movement. All you've got to be careful of really is, one, stabilising the lead side, and then two, just making sure that you try and feel like you retain your height. You don't want to kind of move this way, right? Because then you're not going to get the weight pressure. It's a good drill. Again, it's a good exercise, and it's the same sort of theme as to what we're talking about this week. I'm going to start doing a video very soon and kind of concluding on the golf swing in full. And it's important that you understand this, right? And this is important. If you're struggling with kind of correcting the weight pressure in your golf swing, if you know you don't get it more towards the heel, then it'll be a lot to do with what you're doing very early on in your golf swing. Hopefully you enjoy the video. Definitely a drill every golfer should have a little bit of a go with. Remember, it's absolutely free to press the subscribe button. If you're going to do that, why not press the bell icon as well? Basically just means you receive notifications every time a new video comes out, which is pretty much on a daily basis at the moment. Also, right, send the swings into the channel. Absolutely free to send swings into the channel. Social media links are in the description below. That's where you can send them in. I annotate of the videos. I republish them back on there as soon as I can. Just giving you guys some pointers to keep encouraging you to keep practicing moving in the right direction. Everybody can do this, right? Not everybody's going to have the same club head speed as obviously the world's best, but you can still mirror image the movements. I promise you that. I see it too frequently. Catch up with you again soon.